The restaurant was one of those quiet, upscale places in downtown Seattle, the kind with low lighting and a view of the Puget Sound through floor-to-ceiling windows. Rain streaked the glass as I sat across from my fiancée, Elena, watching her push salmon around her plate without really eating it. We had come here to finalize the menu for our rehearsal dinner, but the conversation had taken a turn I never saw coming. She set her fork down and folded her hands in her lap. "Alex," she said, her voice soft but deliberate, "I need to tell you something. I've been thinking a lot lately, and I don't think I'm ready for the wedding." The words landed like a quiet thud. I felt the air leave the room, even though the hum of other conversations continued around us. We had been together 7 years, engaged for 9 months. The invitations were already printed. The venue deposit was non-refundable. I owned the condo we lived in. Everything was in my name. That I waited for her to continue. "I love you," she went on quickly, as if sensing the silence stretching too far. "I really do. But everything feels like it's happening so fast, and I'm scared I'm losing myself in it. I just need some time to breathe." A pause. "I'm not saying we're over. I'm asking if you can wait for me while I sort this out." Her best friend Lauren, who had joined us to help with planning, nodded along from the seat beside her. "It's completely normal," Lauren added, giving me that gentle, pitying smile people reserve for someone they think is about to be hurt. "Brides get overwhelmed. You just have to give her space." The other friend, Tara, chimed in too. "Yeah, Alex, you're so understanding. She'll come around once she feels centered again." Elena reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. Her fingers were cool. "Can you do that for me? Can you wait?" I looked at her eyes, big, hazel, pleading, and felt something inside me settle into a strange, icy calm. She wasn't asking for time. She was asking for permission to keep all the benefits of being engaged while stepping back from the commitment. She wanted the safety of knowing I'd be there when she decided she was ready again. I end that moment. The decision crystallized. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even heartbreak yet. It was clarity. That I gave her hand a gentle squeeze, smiled the way she expected me to, and said, "Of course, take whatever time you need. I'll be here." Relief washed over her face. She leaned forward and kissed my cheek. "Thank you. You have no idea how much this means to me. You're amazing." Lauren and Tara beamed. The supportive fiancé had passed the test. The rest of the dinner shifted. They started talking excitedly about a girls' weekend they were planning for Napa Valley, the same weekend that had originally been reserved for our wedding. Wine tastings, spa days, photos in the vineyards. Elena laughed and added details, already picturing it. I nodded along, signaled the waiter for another bottle of wine, and paid the check without comment. That night, after I dropped them at Lauren's apartment, I drove home alone. The condo was dark when I walked in. I stood in the living room for a long time, looking at the framed photos on the shelf, the throw pillows she had picked out, the half-finished wedding binder on the coffee table. Then I got to work. I'm a product designer at a mid-sized tech company, but for the past 3 years I'd been quietly building a side project, an AI-powered design tool that had just been acquired by one of the big players. The deal closed 2 weeks earlier. 7 figures. Life-altering money that Elena knew about and had started weaving into her future plans. I opened my laptop and called my wealth manager. We spent 2 hours moving the entire payout into irrevocable trusts and accounts structured in a way that made them unreachable in any common law claim. Next, I logged into our banking apps and canceled the secondary card I'd given her years ago. I transferred the balance of the joint checking account, mostly money I deposited, into my personal one and closed it. I called the leasing company for the BMW I'd bought her last year as an engagement gift and arranged for the title to be corrected to my name only. Then I went through every shared subscription, streaming services, gym membership, even the meal kit delivery, and removed her access by 3 in the morning. I had erased every digital tether that could be quietly severed. The next step was harder. I opened Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, every platform where we'd built a shared online life, and initiated permanent deletions. Years of couple photos, vacation memories, engagement announcements. Gone. I exported my contacts, wiped my phone, and ordered a new one with a new number to be delivered to a private mailbox I'd set up months earlier for business reasons. Finally, I packed one large duffel and a carry-on. Passports, laptops, external drives, legal documents, a few changes of clothes. I walked through the condo one last time, not touching anything of hers. Her dresses still hung in the closet. Her skincare lined the bathroom counter. Her books sat on the nightstand. I left a single note on the kitchen island, written in my usual handwriting on a plain white card. I'll wait. Then I locked the door behind me, dropped the keys in the secure drop box my building manager uses for maintenance, and took a rideshare to the airport. By the time the sun rose over Seattle, I was on a direct flight to Barcelona. I spent the first month in a small apartment in Gracia, a neighborhood full of narrow streets and local bars where no one spoke much English. The anonymity was immediate and complete. I bought a local SIM, set up new email addresses, and let the days blur into quiet routine. Coffee in the morning, long walks, work on freelance projects that paid well and asked no questions. The only person who knew where I was, or that I was even alive, was my sister Claire. We spoke once every 10 days or so. She kept me updated, reluctantly at first, then with a mix of disbelief and quiet admiration. The fallout began sooner than I expected. Elena woke up the day after I left expecting everything to feel lighter. Instead, her card was declined at the coffee shop drive-thru. By evening, she'd discovered the joint account was gone. She drove to the condo, still had a key, and found everything untouched except for my absence and the note. Claire said the first calls were to her, then to my parents, then to mutual friends. Casual at first. "Have you heard from Alex? He's not answering texts." Within days it became urgent. "I'm really worried. His phone is off. His socials are all deleted." She filed a missing person report. Police checked the condo, saw no signs of struggle, noted that my clothes and tech were selectively gone, and classified it as a voluntary departure. Nothing they could do. The girls' trip to Napa still happened the weekend our wedding had been scheduled for. Elena went, posting photos from someone else's account since her spending money now came from her parents. Claire said the pictures looked forced. Big smiles, beautiful vineyards, captions about self-love and new beginnings. But the comments from people who knew the real story were brutal in their silence. When she returned, reality tightened its grip. The BMW was repossessed from the airport long-term parking where she'd left it. Her parents paid the overdraft fees she'd racked up in the weeks before everything was cut off, but they drew a line at continuing to fund her lifestyle. She moved out of the condo. Technically, she'd never been on the lease, and back into her childhood bedroom. She got a job as a front desk coordinator at a boutique fitness studio downtown. Decent pay, but a far cry from the flexible schedule and unlimited shopping she'd grown used to. Friends started peeling away. Lauren and Tara, who had encouraged the pause, suddenly had busy schedules whenever Elena suggested meeting up. Mutual acquaintances stopped inviting her to group events. The narrative spread quietly but thoroughly. She had asked for space at the 11th hour, and he had given her exactly that. Permanently 3 months in, Claire sent me a screenshot from a private group chat she was still in. Elena had posted a long message claiming I'd become distant and secretive after the acquisition, that the money had changed me, that I'd abandoned her without explanation. A few people liked it out of pity. Most didn't respond at all. One night, according to Claire, Elena showed up uninvited to a birthday dinner a bunch of our old friends were having at a rooftop bar. She tried to sit down and launch into her version of events. Jake, my closest friend from college, finally stopped her. "Elena," he said, calm but firm. "We were all there that night at the restaurant. We heard you ask him to wait. We watched you plan your Napa trip right in front of him. He didn't abandon you. He did exactly what you asked." The table went quiet. She left in tears. 6 months passed. I moved from Barcelona to Valencia, renting a bright, airy flat near the beach. My freelance work turned into steady retainers from European startups. I learned passable Spanish, made friends at a local climbing gym, started dating a woman named Marta who worked as a marine biologist. Nothing dramatic, just dinners, weekends exploring the coast, easy laughter. I flew home once for my parents' 40th anniversary party. Stayed in a hotel, kept a low profile. No one mentioned Elena to my face, but Claire filled me in later. She was still at the fitness studio, still living with her parents. The story of what happened had solidified into local lore. The bride who asked her groom to wait, only to discover he took her at her word and never came back. The final chapter came almost exactly a year after I left. Claire called me on a Sunday morning, voice tight with secondhand embarrassment. Elena had apparently scraped together money for a consultation with an attorney. She wanted to sue for breach of promise to marry and emotional distress, claiming the engagement created a binding expectation of financial support. My lawyer received the demand letter and responded with a concise reply. Attached were sworn statements from 2 people who had been at that restaurant dinner, plus the itemized receipt showing the expensive meal and wine I'd paid for while they celebrated her newfound freedom. The closing paragraph was simple. Mr. Rivera honored Ms. Castillo's explicit request. He waited. He continues to wait. He simply chose to do so from a location of his preference. We trust this clarifies the matter. The claim was withdrawn within 48 hours. That was the last I heard of any legal action. Sometimes, late at night when the city is quiet, I think about that note I left on the island. I'll wait, she's still waiting, I suppose, for an explanation, for closure, for a different ending. But I'm not. I'm living in a sun-filled apartment overlooking the Mediterranean, building something new, surrounded by people who know me only as I am now. The past feels like a book I finished reading a long time ago. There was no dramatic showdown, no final angry message, no moment where I got to watch her realize the full weight of what she'd lost. My absence was the point. The silence was the answer. She wanted to press pause on a life we'd built together, so I stopped the tape entirely and walked away. And in the space she left empty, I found room to breathe for the first time in years. I'm finally free.